I want you to take a moment and close your eyes. Wherever you are, if you're driving, don't do this. You can do this exercise later. But I want you to close your eyes and I want you to envision the most beautiful person, place, or thing that you've ever experienced in your entire life. And I want you to think of that person, place, or thing. Maybe it's a beach somewhere that you went on vacation and you just thought it was serenity. It was beautiful. It was tranquil. It was gorgeous. Maybe you're at the top of a mountain peak after a long hike where you see the sunrise and it's just this awe-inspiring moment where you just see how great and beautiful the earth is around you and the people that you have traveled with. You all experience it together. Maybe it's a person. Maybe it's the first time you laid eyes on your spouse. Maybe it's somebody who, as you got to know them more, you saw how beautiful they were inside. And so you just feel that warmth whenever you're around them, whenever they're in the room. Maybe they're just the most beautiful person you've ever seen. the most beautiful guy or most beautiful girl where they walk in and you're like, just jaw on the floor. Now I want you to open your eyes and I want you to hold on to that emotion. I want you to hold on to that visualization or that thought. And I want you to hold on to it in your mind. Just for a little while, all right? We'll come back to it. Because I love beauty. I love art. At a young age, I would draw, I would paint, I would create things. I even learned how to do needlepoint and I loved the artistic side of life. There's just a part of it where I've always had this keen eye for detail, and I loved that detail and being able to see it and be excited. I would be inspired by things. You probably have seen, I've got art around my apartment, and I have a puzzle of Starry Night. It's one of my favorite pieces of art. And if ever I can get like an actual canvas Starry Night, I definitely will. But that's a 2,000 piece puzzle that took me a really long time to put together. And so I treat it like art. It's beautiful. And Starry Night reminds me of this incredible imagination. Because the thing is Vincent van Gogh didn't even paint Starry Night like on a hill where he gets to see everything. He painted it from an asylum, essentially. He had begun to go mad and he could see the world through a different lens. And that was just in his imagination that he formulated on how the wind and the stars would look. And that's what makes that painting so unique, is I think that a lot of times I'm Van Gogh who feels like he's going insane because I see the world in a different lens. I see the world move at a different speed. I see the art in everything. And I love art. I think it's incredible. And if you've ever seen like a master craftsman just create something from nothing. I remember going to Silver Dollar City in Branson, Missouri. It's a theme park. And I remember as a child walking around and we ran into one of those glass artists. You know, they have the glass in front of them and they have a blowtorch and they've got these little sticks of glass and they put it together and they kind of swing it around and they've got all these tools like clamps and pliers and things. And I just would get mesmerized by this guy who would have this glass and he would heat it up and it would melt and then he would start moving it around and then he would start pinching it with the pliers and pulling it, and all of a sudden you would see like life take form and you would see this blob of glass turn into a hummingbird with these beautiful feathers and these wings, and it just looked incredible and it captivated my attention. And I think that there's something beautiful about art in being able to see it come together, right? It's one thing to see the process. We can get mesmerized by the process, but then to see it come together, it's just this awe-inspiring moment. Like, wow. Now, you may not recognize the name, but you probably will recognize this artist's work. There's an artist named Revel, and Revel is a speed painter that has created countless pieces of art in moments, or honestly, he's just really quick, rapidly throwing paint on a canvas. It kind of looks like blotches. It doesn't really make sense, no rhyme or reason. And then he flips the canvas and it reveals this beautiful portrait of like Tom Brady or whoever. Sometimes it's Jesus or whoever they're working with. He's worked with like Toyota and a bunch of other places, the NBA. He's done like halftime shows. But I think a lot of us live life that way, where we throw a lot of paint on the canvas and we try to make sense of it. Sometimes we'll even try to focus on the details of the paint and make it look like what we think our life should actually look like. But it's not until the canvas is flipped that it reveals the purpose. So we see the purpose of our past when the canvas flips and we realize that all the pain that we went through and the hardships that we went through, that's actually to create a sense of urgency for our future, to create our greatest future. And I think that the beauty of art, when you see somebody like Revel do their work, they'll do it really rapidly and it goes by really fast. But then the end product is just wow. And that is something that I've noticed that with my future, I struggle with the process. I want the end product, but I struggle with the process where I rapidly do everything and then I expect it to be perfect. But then I never flip the canvas, or I never complete the painting, or I never complete that momentum, the movement that I've had, because I am completely disjointed or I'm distracted and I start looking at other things. And I start questioning, oh, well, what about them? What about this person? I'm 35 years old. I'm single. I don't have kids. What about this person who's 25 and they already have 2 kids and they have a beautiful spouse and they have a home and they have their dream job and etc. Sometimes I'll look around and I'll be like, I've been working out for 2.5 years. Why don't I have the body like that? And honestly, the answer is it's because that person takes the gym with them and actually focuses on their diet when I don't necessarily do that. I go to the gym. Sometimes I slack off. Sometimes I don't actually push myself to failure. There's a lot of reasons, but I'll compare myself. Some of you may recognize the name Mark Manson. He wrote a book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. I'm not going to say it, but you get the picture. And in short, that book will help the reader kind of formulate what matters most in life and then also what doesn't matter at all, what you can control and what you can't control, and how when you focus on the things that you can control, it gives you a confidence and it takes away the worry of what you can't control. It's like fame and fortune and things that are just like nobody can control whether they go viral. I mean, we've seen the Hawk Tuah girl go completely viral off of a complete happenstance of just she was in the right place, right time. She said the right things and it went viral. And then she capitalized on it, which I'm all in favor of capitalizing on opportunity. But we never know that. So we can't put our faith in getting famous or going viral. We can only focus on what we can control. So that book was a really good read. I do encourage people to read it. But I think it's interesting because long before Mark Manson ever wrote The Subtle Art of Not Giving a, there was another artist that said something very, very similar. In fact, is one of the greatest artists, I think, of all time. I would consider them the greatest artist of all time. But Jesus. And Jesus actually said something extremely similar. And in the last chapter of John, Jesus restores Peter's faith because Peter had denied Jesus 3 times. And then Jesus tells Peter how Peter will die and how it will glorify the Lord. And Peter, being Peter, immediately looks at John, the other disciple that's with him, and says, what about that guy? Like, how will he die? And Jesus says, if I want him to live until I return, what is it to you? As for you, follow me. It's the same premise of Mark Manson. Focus on you. Focus on the things that you can control. Don't focus on what everybody else has going on for them. Don't focus on what everybody else has. Now, it's good to be able to focus on others and care for them and love them. That is something that Jesus preached as well. Love your neighbor as yourself. But in this context, he's talking, don't worry about what they accomplish or what this person does or how this person lives. Focus on how you live. Focus on what you accomplish. Focus on what you're going to do with your life, because it's a unique life that God has given us. And I believe that it's a unique life that God has given me in this opportunity. But sometimes I just want to compare myself to other people. And I find myself constantly looking and saying, yeah, but I'm 35. Like, I tried to do things the right way and it didn't turn out the way that I thought it would turn out. I've tried to be honest, and I've tried to be humble, and I've tried to be the nice guy, but that's not necessarily the good thing to do. But I will compare myself. And maybe you're like me, who you're a little bit older in life, or maybe you're at a point in your life, maybe you're younger, maybe you're in your young 20s or late teens, and you already feel like you've messed things up, and you compare yourselves to others. Well, they had these grades and they went to this college and they got into this college. Or maybe you're, just under, 30, and you're about to turn 30 and you're starting to question it. Maybe you're older. Maybe you're about to turn 40 or 50 and you're questioning, why in the world is my life looking like this? And why is it not turning out this way? Or why am I struggling with these things that I shouldn't be struggling with anymore? I sometimes will catch myself with the posture of asking God for things that were never meant for me. Have you ever done that? I have to quickly remind myself, right? Where I'll say, oh, Lord, if only I had that, I'll be happy. If only I had what that person has, I'll be happy. And I have to catch myself, because I'll ask God straight up, hey, I know you have these great plans for me, but I want that. Sometimes I have to remind myself to quit asking God for the paint that he's painting me. I have to quit asking God to paint this picture that belongs to somebody else. And it's a completely different picture from the future that he's already planned for me. A future full of hope is what Jeremiah says. Now, whether you're a believer or not, there will be a point in life where it doesn't matter what anybody else, what their canvas looks like. You have to focus on what you're doing and your future. And you have to get to work, and you have to paint and work on your future. Because if you don't, you'll wake up one day and realize that the future that you've created was never yours to begin with. And that's a very sobering thought. And I've gone through a couple different career changes, went back to school. I've done a lot of really weird things all through my 20s. And I've constantly compared myself. And I know that there were a couple years where I saw somebody else and I said, that's what I want. I want to do that. And I thought it was great. But deep down, I knew that that's not my purpose. So I spent a couple years chasing what that person had. And it was fun. And I learned a lot. But ultimately, it gave me no joy. And I got to the end of those few years and realized I've gone 2 years in the wrong direction. And it's not the end of the world. I got on the right direction. And I believe I'm on the right path. I believe I'm on the exact direction that I'm supposed to be. And God continually provides these incredible opportunities and these incredible reminders that I'm exactly where I believe he wants me to be. Now, I want to go back to the beginning of this episode, right? That beautiful thought that you had, the most beautiful person you've ever seen, or the most beautiful thought you've ever had, or the most beautiful place you've ever been. And I want you to recall that thought and recall that vision, recall that emotion from that thought. And I want to challenge you to create your future more beautiful than that. I want you to try your absolute best to create your future to be more beautiful than even the most beautiful thing that you've ever experienced. And I don't want you to be afraid to flip your canvas a couple times to see what it looks like from this angle, or what it looks like from this angle or this angle, because at some point you might look at it and say, oh, that right there is my purpose. That is why it's beautiful. That's why I went through all of this area, and that's why all of this shading brought new life. That's why this was necessary for me to go through this dark part in my life, is because it created depth in the canvas, and it created depth in the work of art. I want you to create your future into a work of art that when other people think of what's something beautiful? What's the most beautiful thing that you can think of? They think of you. Because every room that you stepped into has purpose. Every room that you step into, there is light that emulates from you that provides this perspective or joy or excitement, because you know that your canvas and your purpose is to step confidently into that room. You don't have to second guess it and wonder, oh, am I supposed to be here? No, you're absolutely supposed to be here. And the reason you know you're absolutely supposed to be here is because you're not focused on everybody else's canvases. You're focused on your canvas and what God is doing in your life. I am so excited for all the things that God continues to do in my life. And even though I haven't been consistent with this podcast over the last month and a half, I'm still blown away at the fact that every time I get a chance to do this, it just reminds me of all the things that I went through to get to where I am today. And all I want to do is remind you that our greatest future, I firmly believe that our greatest future, it always lies within the correct view of our past. When you accurately look at your past, there is something that happens where you see all of the pain, all of the hardships, all of the frustrations make sense. And it gives you this unwavering confidence that I've been through all of that. I can handle what I'm dealing now. And it gives you the confidence to step into your future to say, I've done that, and I'm doing this right now. I'm going to be able to handle whatever's in the future. And so you confidently step into those rooms. You confidently step into your future, and you constantly create with a confidence and a ferocity and a joy that says, I'm going to do it with an excitement of life. And I'm going to do it where people, when they look at me, they say, why are you so excited about doing that? It just seems like annoying work. You say, nah, but there's purpose. I really appreciate all of you for listening. I hope that all of you have a wonderful rest of your week. I am trying my best to be more consistent and get back in a rhythm. The most busy part of my job, the most busy part of the year is starting to wrap up. So I'm trying to kind of create a better balance of, okay, this is how we're going to do things, and we're going to get back to 2 episodes. There is a possibility that I go to a longer episode and maybe change the release date to just Monday instead of Mondays and Thursdays. I don't know yet, but I'm so thankful for all of you that listen. I'm really encouraged by everybody who has messaged me or popped in or have mentioned the podcast. And so I really hope that you'll just have an incredible week. Know that I care about you. I pray about you guys often. Even if I don't know you, those of you that listen, I'm very thankful for the opportunity to have a voice. So I hope that you'll have a wonderful rest of your week. As always, remember to give grace, show love, and stay stellar. Peace.